going on, everybody? We're here live at 21 Mercer at the Staple Store, the flagship store, the first ever to do it with the one and only, the living legend, Jeff Staple. Jeff, what's going
What
on,
up?
man?
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
I love to
It's a
see it.
big day.
I couldn't notice, but you got the pennies on the penny loafers, man.
Yes.
We're rocking it today.
You got my best, and I've got, I decided to dress up for you today,
I appreciate that, man.
And it's a big holiday for us today.
Listen, it's National Pigeon Day.
It is National Pigeon Day. Now, I didn't make this up. If you Google it, it's like a real day.
I saw.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow. And it's a perfect, iconic moment to create this live because it's National Pigeon Day. We're here with the one and only Jeff Staple at 21 Mercer. When I look around, we're here live. People are shopping. People are like having fan moments. Hey, how old were you there? You were
Yeah.
13.
We're in it. We're in it. This is live. So
This is such a beautiful thing. Being in this space now, when we think of 21 Mercer, it's such an iconic space, right? How important was it for you to lean into this space to continue to amplify the legacy of Staple? And what do you hope that this space brings to the community?
Well, when I was deciding I was going to open a flagship store, I obviously wasn't like, I'm going for 21 Mercer, when you look at any retail space, you go to a broker, they show you around, and like they give you like a sort of menu of addresses.
Yeah.
And I remember when I saw the menu, I was like, hold up, 21 Mercer Street really is like available? And I just thought like my first notion was that Nike had the space and it's a big space.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, I'm not going to be able to swing this, but through some creative negotiation and some deal making and some poker playing, we were able to get the space.
Wow.
And so that, like, the journey just to get the lease signed is like step one. Then when the lease gets signed, it's like, okay, now I have this responsibility to take Nike Lab, the first Nike Lab in the world, and turn it into something that's my own, but also because Nike Lab meant so much to a community and a culture, I also couldn't like just wipe that away too. So it was this fine balance of like create something of my own, but respect the history of which it came from,
Absolutely.
And that was a challenge, a fun challenge, but also a pressure, because if I came with some, excuse my French, like some whack shit in a hallowed ground space like this, it's one thing to make a whack store just on your own, but to desecrate like a capital of a culture, it's even worse, So I did feel that pressure going into this. And yeah, I think
it's beautiful.
Thank you. I'm really happy with it.
Look at this set, man. Like this set,
Yeah,
shout out to the team for honestly helping to build this beautiful set. And we're gonna get to this iconic moment right here. But now that you're in this space, do you still feel that pressure?
Oh yeah. It's not, pressure is not the wrong word. It's more like expectation that I have to fulfill.
And how do you manage that?
With a team, for sure. Everyone, we're like an army, but a friendly army.
Yeah.
But like our job here is to perform, deliver. We are in the business of customer service. We are in a subjective economy, meaning you can go to Zara, you can go to Uniqlo if you want, right? Like I understand always that if you want to buy a cheaper t-shirt with less meaning and spend less money, many options for you.
Absolutely.
We have to earn the right for you to come into our space, learn about the brand, and then maybe throw down some of your hard-earned money for it. Like, and I am very cognizant that every sales transaction that happens is like a mini lotto moment. It's like, whoa, someone like worked their ass off for $54 and then spent that whole thing on a shirt that I designed. And when I designed it, I didn't have that person's sensibility in mind. I had my sensibility, and that person's now like, I'm gonna drop my hard-earned money on your sensibility. Like, that's a magical thing that, if we have 100 transactions a day, that's happening 100 times a day. The magic is constantly happening. Wow. And I think, just coming from retail, I used to work like Foot Locker, Athlete's Foot, The Gap, Paragon Sporting Goods. I saw that it's not a given that people just come in and buy your shit,
Yeah, no, I love that, and you've created so many beautiful designs, and we're here on National Pigeon Day. You mentioned that, right?
Yeah.
And it's an iconic moment, you said, and it's happening live today. And I wanted to learn a little bit more about why the pigeon, and looking back, what did it symbolize for you then, and does it still symbolize the same thing for you today?
Good question. Really good question. Back then, so when I say back then, I'm going to date myself, but we're talking the early 90s of New York City. 95 is when the notion of staple came into my head. 97, March 7th, 1997 is the first day that I sold a staple shirt. So that was the day that business was born, right? And between the 90s to 97, I was just a young downtown, son of an immigrant family, person of color, just trying to make sense of the world and trying to find my identity, grapple with what I was trying to contribute to the world, while also trying to be a responsible young adult and do the right thing, but do my thing.
Right.
That's a bar right there.
Yeah, bro, run that back. Go ahead.
Do the right thing. There's a fine line between do the right thing and do my thing. Society, your parents, your loved ones, your grandparents, whoever, your teachers, they want you to do the right thing, but you want to do your thing, and you got to find the balance in that,
Yeah.
And so in the mid 90s, I was trying to find that balance 24/7, and pigeons are for the most part a reviled creature. Like people tend to hate on pigeons, and my dream of trying to do my own thing, create my own designs, paint on sneakers, airbrush on t-shirts was my own thing. Collecting, I was like into hip hop, collecting vinyl, DJing. Everyone wanted me to stop doing that. So they were hating on that, but I was trying to eat off of it. And when I saw what pigeons were doing, which is like trying to survive, but everyone's hating on them, yet they're out here overcoming the circumstances.
Right.
The city spends billions of dollars trying to get rid of pigeons.
Absolutely.
And they can't, right? So that sense of overcoming and like underdog was like something that just was like a spirit animal thing for me. It actually didn't come about until much later when I decided to make the pigeon our icon, because the brand started in 97. It wasn't until 2002, so 5 years later, that I was like, and I'm trying to find a logo, but like, we always have the logo, it's behind you under the pigeon there. That I made that logo in 1997. It hasn't changed to this day.
Bro, that's iconic.
It hasn't changed to this day, dude.
And how do you create something? And we're gonna get to it because I think you created something. I think it took you a day to create, and then
two. I remember exactly where I was when I created it.
But it's crazy. How do you keep that longevity?
That's the game, man. It's like people don't know this, but part of what makes Staple interesting is that it's not only a clothing brand and a footwear collaborator and a community activator, but it's also like low-key a social experiment about consistency. It's a consistency experiment. Like I could have changed the logo many times.
Yeah.
But I was like, no, let's just see what this is about. If it's not about the trendiest thing or the hypest thing or the coolest thing of the moment, but it's about the most consistent, stable thing,
Yeah.
There's something cool about that. Like I always really admired, you ever watch like Navy SEALs train?
Yeah.
And it's all about who can hold their breath underwater the longest.
Right.
Yeah. And my whole thing is like, I might not be the best looking or the most talented or the most connected or like the most cool downtown cat, but I will hold your breath underwater the longest. And I think, Staples 28 years old now, so it's like we just been here.
And you have, and you're about to I can only imagine what you're going to create in 30 years and stuff like that, the big 30. But you mentioned about holding your breath the longest and kind of that consistency and that drive. Where does that stem from?
Boredom. No, it's true. Like you can't be too distracted. If you're too distracted, you're like, oh, I want this, But it's you got to be quite level-headed. And you made that comment before we started that like I don't come into these situations and get overly excited. I'm not like a hype man, but I also don't get overly down on myself either. I keep it very even keel.
Yeah.
I'm pretty level-headed, I think. So that helps with the consistency thing, Like even when I do monumental things like open a store or drop that, like people ask me like, yo, how do you feel? I'm just like, I feel good. I just feel good.
I love that, because you're always like just cruising and stuff. And the first time we connected, I was just like, yo, Jeff, we got to make this happen. He was like, yeah, connect with my team and we'll make it happen. And I think you don't understand what that does for people like myself who have a dream, right? Who want to see this in bigger platforms and bigger spaces and all these things, but ultimately it gives me that little ounce of hope to say, you know what? Somebody gave me a chance. We're here
Yeah.
today, and like that just fuels the energy in me to keep pushing forward. So I just
Yeah.
want to say thank you,
You're welcome.
you know, for seeing me, but for saying yes.
Yeah.
You know.
But let me tell you some advice there. So I bet you meet lots of people. They're like, yeah, we're gonna make this happen. Let's
Yeah.
do it. And nothing happens.
Yep.
So the secret there, the reason why this is happening is because behind the scenes, I have built a pipeline of allowing people to empower themselves to do their jobs, right? And so I knew when I said, yes, this is gonna happen, I actually knew who to connect you with, and it took a while,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it
Listen,
took 2-3 months,
bro,
right?
it's National Pigeon Day.
Yeah,
You know
but
what I'm
it's meant
saying?
to be.
Yes,
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
exactly. On today, no one better than you.
Exactly. But I knew that because I built the infrastructure and the team, and I mentioned the army before, like, so that's the analogy there is like, yeah, you know, my general and my marshal and my corporal
Yeah.
will like make this happen.
Wow.
And trusting the team that like, yo, when I said like, let's do this, and I said like, yeah, you know, we're gonna make this happen with Christian, the dates, the
Yeah.
alignment, everything, and now we're here, you know. And then not only the alignment of the calendar, but like this, like the store setting this up, that's
Right.
another army, it's another
Come on.
division,
Yes.
you know. But it's that's the hack, is that I think a lot of people have the intention to maybe say like, yeah, we're going to do this, but truth be told, they haven't built the infrastructure to actually make it happen.
Wow, I
Yeah.
love that. Thank you so much for dropping those gems, you know. And as I'm making my way through this, it's so empowering. And I think one of the things that you've said on other platforms that I think is very critical to announce is the what if moments. I think
Yes.
sometimes we get stuck with those what if moments of like, what if I fail? What if I spend all my money and it doesn't sell? What if the collection is not a hit? What if? But sometimes on the other side is like, what if I'm one step away from that breakthrough?
Yep.
Right? For you, you said, what if, you know, you once said that the worst thing is being paralyzed by the what ifs.
Yeah.
Looking back, do you feel like you ever doubted yourself?
Oh yeah. I'd be lying if I said I didn't. I mean, I'm a creative, right? Like all my work, like I look around and I start getting anxiety because every single thing that you see around here, 360 degrees, from the garment
Yeah.
to the embroidery, to the typeface, to the
Yep.
kerning of the typeface, to the poster that's promoting that. Like, I'll tell you right now, it's really bothering me that that poster on the wall is warping out 2 degrees off of the wall. Like, there should be an adhesive tape on 2 sides of that. And I'm going to tell my manager that
Yeah.
we need better adhesive tape on the side. Like, that's how neurotic I am, right? So if you think about all of those aspects are an area for somebody to potentially judge me, of course it's going to create like, you know, anxiety and also second guess myself. But, you know, it's just like, it's having the cojones, you know, to just be like,
Yeah.
I just feel it in my gut that like I'm just gonna put this out. And so when I say that, yeah, it's funny. I was just talking to someone last night about it who's starting a brand, and he's like, "I'm so nervous about this, you know, the clothing brand." And I was like, "Dude, if you make it and just put it out in the world, you are 51% ahead of the game already."
Wow.
Because so many people have an idea in their head and they didn't put it out. Just put it out. It might bomb, it might not sell, but just know that like you've won already just by putting it out into the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think sometimes the hardest thing is to start, you know, and once you start, you learn as you go,
Yes.
you know.
Yeah, and it starts to, you know, when you, it's like science, right? When you throw an element out into the world, that element reverberates and it changes the atmosphere that it's in.
Yeah.
It changes the room that it's in, right?
sure.
So I'll give you an example. If you brought a T-shirt that you made, you didn't sell it, and you don't have a brand, and you just took that shirt and you just threw it on the floor in this room, it, you know, it's a metaphor. It
Right.
changes everyone's gonna be like, what is,
Yeah.
what's going, you know, like everyone's thoughts change, right?
Absolutely.
That's all you had to do was just make something and throw it down. You didn't even sell, you didn't have a name.
Right.
Right? So like there's power in that. Now when you put a label on it and you have a concept and a website and an Instagram account, it starts to reverberate even more. You know?
I love that concept. I
You
really
didn't have to
did.
sell one.
Yeah. It
And you're
just
changing the world. Literally.
exactly.
And that's a cliche, like, yo, you could change the world. No, it's bullshit. But no, you actually are.
Yeah.
Like you just put something out in the world and it's changing the world.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes we hold in those gifts and those talents and that creative vision and stuff, and sometimes we never get that chance to do it. But when we do, like you said, you in change people, you
Yeah.
just give so much hope for other individuals, you know.
It's pressure. It's the pressure that makes you doubt yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that. And there's something that I really want to kick off because it's like starting the brand, right? It is so empowering and so important. But I want to talk about the first order that came through. I want to
Hmm.
talk about those 12 shirts.
Yeah.
Let's talk about those 12 shirts for
Okay.
you and how it kind of morphed into just something more in what we see today.
Okay. Yeah, it was. I wore a. You know, at the time I was going to art school. I went to Parsons School of Design. I was hand printing shirts, and you know, I've said this story before, but like I had to break into Parsons.
Yeah.
I'd have to leave the window unlocked and actually do it after hours because the teacher didn't allow printing on shirts. So I was just, you know, doing it as a hobby, printing shirts, and then I would wear the shirts that I made, obviously. And then on March 7th, 1997, I walked into the 555 Soul Store, which is an OG streetwear brand in
Yeah.
the Lower East Side, and I walked in there to shop, and the manager said, "Oh, that's a cool shirt. Where'd you get that from?" And I was like, "Oh, I made this." And he's like, "Man, if you want to make a dozen, we'll put them in the shop."
Mm.
And that was the first order, you know. And of course, I had to break into school again and
Did you
make
make
12
profit?
shirts.
Do you remember the design and
Um,
all that? Like,
yeah, I
tell me
remember the
about the,
design.
yeah.
I completely remember the design. And I had to buy shirts in Chinatown, actually one block down from here.
Wow.
Pearl. There used to be an art store here called Pearl Paint, and
Mm.
I would buy my inks and my squeegees there. I bought my inks and squeegees there. I bought the blank tee on 14th Street and University at like one of those like rainbow 99-cent store things,
Yep.
right? So I bought my blank heather gray shirt there, and then I'd bring all the supplies to school, throw them into the window of the silkscreen lab. I would crawl in through the window, and then all night I would like try to perfect printing these shirts. And these first shirts were very, very artistic and controversial.
Mm.
Like they showed the first three shirts that I ever sold was one that highlighted the student rebellion in China with Tiananmen Square, where like this
Mm.
kid, the student, is standing in front of a line of tanks,
Oh, wow.
and he's stopping the tanks from going. Like the tanks
Wow.
won't run him over. So one student stopped the military tanks, and then another one was a Native American headdress feather
Mm.
that was like burnt,
Wow.
like so to show
Yeah.
like what we as Americans did to the Native Americans. And then another one was one highlighting the slave trade, which was like this sort of choker that they would put on slaves so that they couldn't run away.
Wow.
So it was like these three things that talked about rebellion and youth culture. And on the back I put "never forget" on the back
Mm.
to show that like as we're seeing today, if you
Right.
forget, history will repeat itself like
1000%.
it's happening right now.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Wow. And when you think about all of these amazing creative visions and some of the storylines, do you keep those archives with you? Or
Mhm.
do you kind of like if you find creator's block or like moments where you
Yeah.
have to dig in into those archives, do you typically do that or how do you
No, so
continue
great
to?
question. I have an archive of everything,
Mm.
and we just put a book out. So like you'll see a lot of the old stuff in my book. So I luckily kept a lot of stuff, but I never look back at them for inspiration.
Oh, wow.
No, I never look back.
So where do you drive how do you stay relevant, with times changing, things morphing, new technology coming in? How do you stay how do you how do you keep your creativity relevant to
I
today?
I meet people. I talk to
I love
people.
that.
Yeah. I try to talk to as many people around the world as possible.
Mm.
I deal in the culture of streetwear and street culture. That means you have to talk to people on the street,
Yeah.
you know? And I find it funny, to be honest, and ironic that like when designers make it to a certain point, they always like go to runway shows and like
Mm.
luxury houses. And to me, it's like, that's cool and it's fun. And I understand that they've built this perception that you're trying to like get yourself into, but there couldn't be anything further removed from street culture than
Right.
like a fashion house,
Yeah.
So like if I'm going to Paris next week for Fashion Week
Yeah.
and everyone's
Why?
trying to get into this runway show and go this red carpet event and stuff. And I'm just like, I'm happy just sitting in a cafe and just watching real Parisians walk down the street. So I understand what they want in life,
Mm.
what they're going through. And then I feel like if I do that in Tokyo, Berlin, London, Paris, LA, New York, I start to like absorb the sensibility of streetwear all over the world.
Wow.
And then when I go to design that next shirt, I don't even, it's not like I make a mood board and like, this is the Parisian streetwear. This is like, whatever is in my head,
Yeah.
it just comes out. And I think that's better. I feel like people are a little bit too rigid with like their Pinterest boards. Like,
Yeah.
just pretend you're making a gumbo,
Mm,
right? And you
yeah.
just put the ingredients in and stir it up and let it
Yeah.
marinate. And then like when you drink that gumbo, it's not like, where did the fava beans come from? Like, no, it's just, don't
Right.
worry about it.
Yeah.
It's all in the stew.
I love that. You know, I think that's such a beautiful way to do that, because I think you're right. So many people get caught up with the hype, right? And so many things. But I think from you, who's so giving, so observant, so open, right? And I think one of the things, like I mentioned offset and we were talking, I was just like, I love the way you kind of just always reach back out and hear the stories of that person who has been a fan since day one, right? Kind of, and I love that, because I think ultimately, as you reach a level of success, you never forget where you came from, and
Can't.
I think you've been doing such an amazing job
Yeah.
doing that.
Also because I vividly remember the time where I was a young cat, 21, 22, trying to break into the system
Yeah.
of like this culture. And I remember experiencing gatekeeping and people like, hey, where did, no, don't worry about it, kid.
Wow.
And I remember getting just like, also like um, misjudged and like just player hating basically,
Yeah.
and I hate that feeling, and so I wanted to really, when I said to myself, if I ever am in a position where somebody actually comes up to me and asks me for advice or anything, I would never want to be that person that like gate kept on me,
For sure.
yeah.
Yeah, I love that, man. And we talked about you traveling the world and you collecting stories of so many amazing people along the way. And I think the people that are on the ground, right, the community and all that. I want to talk about a life altering moment that you had shared in a show once
Okay.
before. And 4 years into the brand, you had this life changing moment where honestly, if it did happen, you and I probably wouldn't be here today.
Yeah.
Talk about, I don't want to give a story away because I want to hear
Uh-huh.
from what happened on your end, but like talk about that moment and what did it do and how did it shift that mindset for you?
You mean where I almost died?
In the Andes, yeah.
Yeah, in the Andes, yeah. So I was on a snowboarding trip in the Andes Mountains, which is in South America, Argentina. Why can't I say that word right
Yeah.
now? Argentina. And I'm a big snowboarding guy. I like snowboarding, and so I was like just trying to go to the next level.
Yeah.
And the Andes is high,
Yeah, I saw it, yeah. It's
like
how much altitude?
19,000 feet.
Sheesh.
And
Yeah.
just to give you a comp, like Mount Everest is 23,000 feet.
Oh wow.
So it's
You're
like
right
near the
there.
top of
Yeah.
the world. And so, yeah, I was on a snowboard trip and it was what's called a whiteout condition, which is when it's essentially like a sandstorm in a desert, but it's all snow.
Oh wow.
So you're standing on all white, and you remember that room in the Matrix? I feel like I'm so old because my references are so fucking. I'm like,
No,
do you
listen,
remember
bro.
the Matrix? The Matrix is 30 years old, Jeff. Nobody remembers the Matrix.
Listen,
Okay.
bro. We're
Anyway,
here. We're here. We have YouTube. We go on YouTube.
yeah.
All right, that was
Okay,
the room
there's
Jeff
this
was talking
scene in
about.
the Matrix where they're training and it's an all white room, right? It's a blank room. And so in a whiteout condition, you're basically standing on snow and there's white left, right, up, down 360 degrees. So you're like in a vacuum. You
Oh,
don't even
wow.
know where gravity is anymore. You're floating, right? And so I'm snowboarding in this whiteout condition, and before I know it, I'm like at a cliff's edge where the cliff is like 19,000 feet off the
Oh,
earth,
wow.
right? And so I started hiking back up, and in the hike, I basically got lost, to make a long story short, for like 5-6 hours, right, in this wilderness
Yeah.
desert. And the sun was now beginning to set, and if the sun setted, it would have been night, and then I likely would not have survived like being out there in the Andes overnight,
wow.
right? So yeah, it was a rough situation, obviously. I even dug my own grave. Like I
Wow.
even dug a 6-foot hole and laid in it.
Wow.
And just like was like I'm done. And then decided I can't go out this way. I'm gonna keep trying until I use every last muscle in me. Right. Went through all full gamut of the emotions of like anger, denial, pity, crying, like screaming, like saw hallucinations, was
Wow.
going through like dehydration, no food, no drink, so it was crazy. I magically got rescued, right? Really, really magically, like spiritually incredible, like basically like another guy on another mountain.
Wow.
Like I'm on this mountain, there's another mountain here, and this guy saw me near where I like the edge of the cliff where I shouldn't be. And then this guy happened to know a guy here that he could radio to be like,
Wow.
there's a guy here. So I never even met this guy.
Oh, you never got the chance to meet
No,
him.
I never got the
Wow.
chance to thank whoever this person was that phoned in. But I met this guy, and now this guy gets staple for life.
Fire. Yeah.
But yeah, so this guy came in a snowmobile and then saved me. Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
At like 5:45 p.m., which is like 15 minutes before like it just went total pitch black.
Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
man. That's
So that was
a
my
testimony,
yeah,
man.
that's my near-death experience. I actually had two. The other one was much faster, but this one was a big one because when I came home to New York, you know, as you mentioned, it was like the fourth or fifth year of Staple, and it was like really stressful at the time. Like they say that the 5 year hump is like the hardest to overcome in a new business. If you can survive the fifth year, like something like 80% of companies don't survive past the fifth year of a new brand, right?
All right.
So it was very, and I know why. It's like it was very stressful, like, you know, expenses, bills, you know, loans, blah blah
Yeah.
blah, and it was very stressful. And when I came back, I just felt this peace of like it's gonna be all good because I'm not in that 6 foot hole that I dug for myself in the mountain. You know, everything is better than that, right?
Wow.
So it was a blessing, to be honest. It was obviously it was a blessing that I survived, but it was a blessing that I got to experience something like that. It's
Yeah.
very rare.
No, honestly, and I think sometimes, you know, they always say it's like you got to live tomorrow or live today as tomorrow. If you got to live in the moment, like today was your last day,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like because tomorrow's never promised.
Exactly.
And I think it's so beautiful, one, that you're here today for us to have this amazing conversation. But I'm so thankful that you were so open to share that because it's crazy how the lines that because you know you dug a 6 foot grave for yourself and it's just like but someone
Yeah.
saw you still,
Yeah.
you know, and
Yeah, yeah.
that's so beautiful.
Like actually in current events news, you know, God bless all those people. But yesterday an Air India flight just
Yes,
crashed,
I saw that. Yeah,
and all 200 people died except for one
person.
guy in seat 11A. He walked away unscathed. And when I saw that story, it took me back to that snowboard incident because I was like, I felt so happy for that guy because his life is going to be so good now.
wow.
Like every meal he eats, every minute he lives is going to be such a gift now.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Wow. You know, experiencing that, right? And what do you feel like? How do you like? What changed for you living now that you are able to live every day after that?
Just that, you know, nothing's that important or serious, you know, just life is, as you said, you can't take it for granted. So we as human beings tend to get really caught up in the short term. We also have a tendency to regret our past and worry way too much about the future. I think that's pretty much everybody
Yeah.
for the most part. But if you go through an experience like that, you realize that the only thing you could really take care of is the current minute that you're living in.
1000%.
Maybe you could have some influence on the next minute, but like today's Friday, you can't even really worry about Saturday or Sunday, to be honest. You know what I mean? Like you might not wake up tomorrow. So you could make preparations as a smart person, but don't overthink it. Don't go crazy about it, you know?
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, that's food for thought for me as well. Because sometimes, like as creatives, as so many people, we always want to plan the next thing. We want to plan for the next shoot. We want to get this person, but it's just like live in the moment, experience,
Yeah.
enjoy it. You know, wave to the person that just smiling at you across the corner. You know,
Yeah.
so there's so much beauty into that.
Yep.
As we channeling through your life story here, I want to talk about. I would like to say a pivotal moment in your career as well. I want to talk about the fader in Japan.
Yeah.
Right. And rest in peace to Rob Stone. I actually had the honor of meeting Rob
Wow,
Stone as
cool.
well. He's actually an alum from the University of Albany.
Uh-huh.
Funny
Yeah.
enough, he was coming. We were like doing this big spotlight moment for alums, and he came and he had like a one-on-one. He was like
Oh,
keynote and
you were a
everything.
student.
I was a student at the time.
Wow.
Yes. But the crazy thing is, like, I was actually his tour guide coming
That's
back to
dope.
campus. So I was actually saying, hey, this is the campus center. This is the lecture center. It was such an amazing experience because I got the chance to get to really know him and all the legacy he has built throughout. But I want to talk about from your perspective, right? Talk to me about the fader. Talk to me about this incredible Japan experience.
Yeah. So, I mean, before I went to design school, I went to NYU for journalism. So I had a bug for like writing stories and uncovering kind of like mysteries and stuff, like
Yeah.
weird things. And you know, this is 1999 now,
Mm.
you know, so resell as we know it today wasn't like a category yet. Like no one
Yeah.
said the word reselling yet,
Right, right.
But it was happening on a small level where people who bought shoes in Japan that were only available in Japan
Mm-hmm.
would bring them to New York. Then they would flip them and then buy shoes that were only available in New York, bring them back to Japan, and then flip them. So they were doing this transcontinental trading. And I knew it was happening because I was a big sneakerhead. And I was like, why is Nike like allowing this to happen or not supporting it? Like they're kind of being silent about it.
Right.
And so I pitched to Rob Stone. I was like, yo, I want to get to the bottom of the story. And what better way than to like talk to Nike Japan, who is like making these limited edition shoes that are coming over here.
Right.
And thankfully Rob like said, approved,
Wow.
go for it. So I went out there, didn't know anybody, and just was like an investigative reporter and just was going to different stores and being like, yo, who's your Nike rep? Who's the salesperson that you talk to? Can I talk to the assistant manager, the executive, the chief? And I kept making my way up for like 10 days or so, like 2 weeks, that trip was.
Oh, wow.
And finally I got up to the guy, his name is Marcus, who is the one person at Nike Japan who decided, we're gonna retro this shoe, we're gonna bring this back, we're gonna make it in 36 pairs, we're gonna sell it at Atmos, you know, like whatever was the decision,
Right.
he was the one guy.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I did the interview, and at this point I had no relationship with Nike at all up until now, right? Zero. I was just a fan and a customer.
wow.
Yeah. So this is my first time was at Nike headquarters, was in the Japan office, and so after the interview, which went really really well, he was like, yo, so like you're a sneakerhead, you make this magazine, you design, you have a clothing line, like we should see how we can work together. Let's get you out to Beaverton.
Oh, wow.
The world headquarters. And I was
So he
like,
really enjoyed that conversation with you.
he did,
Yeah.
yeah. We had a great talk, and he's still a friend today. He's at Puma now. And also on that day, he was like, you know, I use a consultant to help me with these decisions of like which shoe to retro and which colorways to do. And I was like, I would love to meet him. He's like, yeah, you should get him into this article too. His name's Hiroshi Fujiwara, and he has a brand called Fragment.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, I didn't know who he was. This is '99, you know. So I met Hiroshi for the first time, and we became fast friends, and you know, maybe best friends even, I would say. He invited me to his house for dinner that night.
Wow.
It was a wild Japan trip.
But it was all worth it.
Oh, 100%, man. I mean, that was the first time that Hiroshi and sneaker culture was documented in a magazine in America.
Yeah.
You know, like another rest in peace, man. We're losing a lot of people, but like, you know, Virgil Abloh, I remember like once a year he would post that Fader article that I did about how important it was when he read that. It changed the course of his life, you know? So like that was really the first time that it was exposed.
Wow.
But that's the being in the moment thing, man, because you know, obviously that branch of the multiverse is what led to this.
Right.
Right? But I didn't take the job at Fader to be like, you know, this is gonna get me the Pigeon Dunk. This is gonna get me the collab. Like, of course not. I'm like, this is a job, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do the best I can. I didn't pitch it to Rob to go to Japan to try to get that, you know.
Right.
I really had a curiosity, and in that moment, it felt like, here's another bit of advice that I'm gonna tell your viewers. It felt like the right thing to do, and it felt like a win-win. It wasn't like, yo, Rob, sending me to Japan, I really want to go. Like, why would I do that? But like, if I pitch it to him like, no, this is a story that your brand can break, send me, I'll do the work. It's a win-win.
Absolutely.
You know, that's to me what a good collaboration is in any sense of the word, right?
I love
So that whole process was just like, you know, living in the moment, doing what's right for me and for the other side, and then having trust that good things will come about from that. You know?
Absolutely, man. That's the intuition. That's you being intentional. You just
Yeah.
being in the moment. I think that's something that I'm really taking away from it, because sometimes it's just showing up as you. Your authentic self can open so much opportunities.
I feel there's a phrase called ulterior motive. Do you know this phrase?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
It's ulterior motive sounds very evil, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, whoa. But I do feel like a lot of younger people today, when they have a conversation and talk to you, there is an ulterior motive, and not in a negative way. But when they meet you, they're like, how can this dude help me out? Like, how can I glean something from you so that I can take that and then like turn it into something for myself? I feel like there's that energy
Yeah.
a lot in a lot of people that I meet.
For sure.
And, you know, as you said, trying to be intuitive and like just trying to protect my energy, I tend to like shy away from
Yeah.
that in a polite, respectful way. But
Absolutely.
I do feel like there's a lot of like me out there, and what can you do for me, you know?
Absolutely.
Whereas I think when I was coming up, it was like, first, what can I do for you? And then while I'm doing this thing for you, what can I glean off of that for me? But if it doesn't service you, you're going to end it right away,
Right.
you know?
Yeah, I love that. And I think that mindset kind of shifts and morphs into so much how you operate your business today is customer service first. That's what you told me, customer
Yeah.
service first. And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's such an amazing thing.
I'll give you another example just because it came up. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. But like, you know, recently I went to this, you know, Andre 3000 is like a close friend, right? And I
Yes.
went to this thing and like it was a food festival and many people captured it. But it was just really me and him hanging out
Right.
as friends that day. But after that, everyone out of the woodwork is like, yo, you got to introduce me to Andre. We need to link. But like, and it's like, you know, the reason why he is the way he is because everyone wants a piece of him in some way.
Yeah.
And maybe the reason why he hangs out with me is because I'm not trying to like grab something from him.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like, but everyone came out of the woodwork like, I want to pitch this idea. I want to do that. I'm like, dude, slow your roll.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know?
Honestly, that's
Slow your roll,
that
man.
that is something.
And even on me, slow it on me.
Right.
Like you're trying to get me to do this, but like slow it down on me even.
Exactly, and I think that's so important. There's so many takeaways there for us to just like fully embrace the person. Like you said, how do we serve you first and not expect anything in return?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's so much. We pointed at it and we hinted at this. The Pigeon Dunk OG. I see this beautifully placed here.
Yeah.
It's like do not touch, and
a
like
museum
without
piece.
saying do not touch.
Yeah.
Tell me about that call you got from Nike and how this whole evolution, this iconic moment came to life.
Well, after I did that interview with Marcus and he said, let's get you out to Beaverton, he kept his word. And I did get out to Beaverton soon after that.
Wow.
We worked on a bunch of projects. Not this, we worked on other stuff. So
Yeah.
we did other shoes. We did other internal projects, like just design work, presentation work and stuff like that, because I'm a graphic designer.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun. So I miss those days. I miss those days of doing things with Nike that weren't collabs.
Oh, wow.
You know, like they do this thing, like their president at the time was Mark Parker, and they would have like, yo, Mark Parker's coming to New York. We need the entire New York City headquarters like just jazzed up for him.
For sure.
Like, and I would be the one like helping
Jazzing
to
it up.
jazz it up.
Wow.
Yeah. I remember one time I made a fake New York Times, okay? A fake newspaper that said the New York Times, but every article in it was an update about Nike.
Oh, wow. That's fire.
I wish like,
fire.
where is that?
Yeah, where is that?
You know, like
that's fire.
that shit is dope. And so like he had the paper and he's like, oh, it's the New York Times. And he starts reading, he's like, what the fuck? Every
Yeah,
article's about
that's
the brand, you know?
fire.
Like I was like, yeah, it is.
That's fire.
So anyway, we did a couple projects and then come 2003, Marcus, he moved from Japan to Beaverton because he actually started Nike SB, which is
Oh, wow.
crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, he started Nike SB.
Wow.
With Sandy Bodecker, another rest in peace, my God. Sandy Bodecker was the person who said, let's try skateboarding again. And Sandy called Marcus and said, I need you back from Japan because you and I are going to do this.
Oh, wow.
So SB stands for skateboarding,
Yeah.
but it also stands for Sandy Bodecker.
Fire.
SB,
Yeah, that's dope.
Yeah. So Marcus was there and he hit me up and he was like, yo, it's an anniversary of the dunk coming up. And he's like, we want to do different city editions. And I was wondering if you'd be down to work on the New York City dunk. And I was like,
How iconic is that, man?
like crazy.
Yeah.
The dunk, New York City, I get to have my hand in it. You
Right.
know, what a call. Totally remember
Talk
that
about
call
calling,
too.
yeah.
I remember that call too. So you gotta rewind to the fact that like this is 2003 and 4, and the idea of making a shoe look like a reviled street vermin thing
Yeah.
is like most people, even in my circle, like even in my company, were like, this is a bad idea, Jeff. Like this is very polarizing. Most people hate pigeons.
Yeah, they
you know?
do. They do.
Yeah, and to put it like on the heel and make the whole thing look like a pigeon is very wrong.
I love it, bro. But yeah, I can see at the
But
time.
hindsight's
yeah,
2020.
hindsight, right.
Yeah. And so back to the cojones. to be like,
Yep.
no, this feels so right to me. I don't know why. Like everyone's telling me
It's that intuition you had. You was
I
following
don't know
that,
what it
man.
was. It's like insanity meets audacity.
But it was just like, yo, I believe in this. I'm gonna see it through, and
Yeah. Well, then I had to pitch the idea to Nike, right? So I had to mock it up,
yeah,
go back to Beaverton, have a presentation, and be like, all right, pigeons. We're gonna make the shoe look like a pigeon.
right.
They were so confused.
Wow.
Like right off the bat, they're just like, we said New York City dunk. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
I was like, no,
Like
pigeons.
no Empire State Building,
Yeah,
no Statue
no
of
one
Liberty.
understood pigeon, you know,
Wow.
and we went through a back and forth debate. And now here's my team back home telling me it's not a good idea. My girl at the time, not a good idea. My parents didn't get anything, you know, and now the client doesn't get it either. So now it's like, you start to second guess, like, wait, is this a terrible idea? Or is this something super special that people aren't seeing yet, you
Right.
know? And I remember the line that I laid on them to sort of end the debate.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the Beaverton guys are like old white guys that live in like, not even Portland, Oregon, like an hour outside,
Oh, wow.
like in the burbs. Not even the burbs.
Yeah.
It's like the forest. Beaverton is like the woods.
Oh, wow.
Right? So, you know, just a bunch of old dudes. And I was just like, man, listen, you asked me to do the New York City dunk. If I came with an idea that you guys understood out here in Beaverton, I failed. And they were like, that is true. That is true. You know, so they let it go. And then the rest is history.
Wow, man. You know, it's funny, it's such an incredible story. But it's funny, I was actually like just logging on really quick because I think every day you just find new numbers, right? I think yesterday I found out like this is going over for $100,000. Looking back in hindsight and everybody telling you no and you still believing that yes, like did you feel like it was going to be this iconic for it to go as enormous as you see these prices?
Nah, I mean, we made 300 pairs. I just wanted the 300 pairs to sell, basically. But I also, here's the thing about me. I would have been equally happy if these ended up at Ross.
Oh, wow.
Like,
I respect that.
I made
Yeah.
a shoe with
Yeah.
Nike. Like, oh, it didn't sell. It's on sale at TJ Maxx. What, did you make a shoe with Nike? Sit down. You know,
Listen, humbly, yeah.
Yeah, humbly, like,
Right.
you didn't make a shoe with Nike. Who cares if my shit's on sale? But that didn't happen, obviously. So the 100K number and like the grail that it is, it's just the cherry on top, to be honest. But it's like the redemption for me is that it got made and that people like it. Everything else, all this like lore that has been attached to it, is like it's like a wow thing, but it's also like, man, that was unnecessary. Like, you know, like the Mount Rushmore-ness of it is super dope, but I would have been happy. Like if I was a 9.9 happy and now I'm a 10, like it's just 1 decimal point more.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
I love that. You know, you talk about partnerships and good collaborations, and we see them all come into fruition. I got them on the feed. We got them on this Holy Grail. From your creative process, when you think of that, like what makes a good partner, and what is it that you typically look for from a brand when you're thinking about collaborations and good partnerships?
So it's almost exactly the same as dating somebody or getting married to somebody. You know, it's you want to be able to get along with the person in real life.
Yep.
You want to break bread. You have to know that you're not going to disagree on everything, and what happens when you don't agree. What is the compromising that happens, right? So all these things I'm describing is just like a relationship or a partner, but that's the way it should be in a collaboration. I almost always break bread with my collaborators, and I know a lot of times now from my industry peers, they don't even ever meet the person that they're collaborating with. They literally just send the logo and just put the AI files next to each other and then put an X and then like print it and then it's done, you know?
Wow.
And I feel like I can feel that. Like when I see it out, I'm like, y'all never had dinner once. Like, I don't even, maybe it was just Zoom. It was all done via Zoom, you know?
You can see by the energy.
Yes,
Yeah.
it comes through in the product, you know?
Yeah.
And so I try to just go through and like really curate each one deeply like that, which is also the reason why, I mean, I don't know. Let me ask you, do you think we put out a lot of collaborations or not a lot as others? Like, what's the...
I think it's you have a great balance, and I think
Okay.
you do it in such a tasteful way. When you do, it makes sense for the time being, and I think that point of you speaking to the people on the ground first,
Yeah.
and then going back into the lab, creating something dope, putting it out.
Yeah.
I think that's how I've been seeing and appreciating all your collabs.
Okay.
Right? That's the way I've been
Yeah,
seeing
yeah.
it. Other people might have different things, but I think you do an amazing job being so thoughtful in every approach where it just makes sense.
I feel like we do a lot. Other people are like, yo, you're not doing as much as so and so.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you. Like, my process takes longer,
Yeah.
I guess, like, but I do feel like I do a lot.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes I'll look back and I'll be like, man, my month was like some people's lifetime. Like, if another creator just did what we put out like this month, they would be good, like, just to hang their hat on, like, yo, we did these 4 things, and
Yeah.
that, but like that's like every month for us. It's like insane. So I'm very happy with the output that we put out.
Yeah, and I think every output that I'm seeing it all around here. I think like it's so tastefully done. Like the placement, like you're saying, like it has to be positioned very well. Like just the thought process throughout, like it's very intentional. I think that's what I love about a brand. Like even when I came up, like growing up, I still remember like it was that hat 3/4 sleeve, had the army.
Camo.
Had the camo sleeve, and then had the big staple pigeon right here in the
Yeah.
front. Like I still have that T-shirt in the closet. You know what I'm
Nice.
saying? And I say that to say is like I couldn't wear it today because it didn't fit me,
Uh-huh.
right? But I say that to say that's a holy grail that I remember because I remember the excitement I felt when I first bought it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think every time you release a certain product, it's just it's done so tastefully.
Yeah. And whenever you wore that, was it a conversation
It
starter?
was a
Like,
conversation starter, yeah.
That's the best
Especially
part
when I had
too.
the poop too, like
Yeah.
with the pigeon poop, which I ended up finding out that you actually got that trademark.
Yes.
Yeah, which
Yeah,
is people don't even probably know that.
No, it's a trademark poop. Yeah. But I always love, like, I just heard that comment from a friend yesterday. He's like, yo, I bought your jacket in the store, then I went to Asia, and like everyone was like asking me about the jacket.
Yeah.
And I love that about Staple, that it's like, and it's not like super duper loud. It's just like a conversation starter,
For sure.
Yeah.
And I love that. And I think community, and we talked about that, is very important to you, right? And mentorship is very important to you.
Yeah.
When you think about your entire career, thinking about Read Space, you're opening it up because you wanted friends to come through and promote their stuff, right? When you're thinking of Business of Hype, getting off the gems and behind the scene lessons of some of these amazing brands that we probably even know how they got started or the financial things. Why is building community and mentorship so important to you?
I don't know. What's the opposite? Being a hermit, like in the basement by yourself, right? So it's like this whole thing is about community. Street culture is about the community. Otherwise, you're putting out blank T-shirts with Hanes. Like, it's just, there's fashion, there's the garment industry, the apparel industry, and then there's streetwear.
Yeah.
And to me, the biggest difference is the community. So it's like, it's always about giving back. And it's when you were like listing off those things like the podcast and Read Space, like I was getting anxiety because I was like, it's like there's too many things to do. Like I've done too many things and there's too many things left to do. Like again, like the podcast was so incredible as a platform to share. But like, yeah, if another person just only did the podcast as their whole career, that would have been fine. That's a great career. But that was like one chapter for me.
Right.
And then there was like Read Space and then now this, so I always get like heart palpitation when people start listing off all the things that I've done. And again, it's because I try to live in the present.
Right.
If I'm like ticking off all my wins and like printing them on the board and looking at them, like that would give me real stress to see my accomplishments like that. I don't know, that must be a weird, unique thing, but like I don't want to see my W's. I just want to see the next,
Have you gotten to a place where you fully embraced your success?
No, not really. No.
You feel like you'll ever get to that place?
No, I don't think so. I'm old now. Can't teach an old dog new tricks, There's this great meme, I just posted it recently, of like, it's like Derrick Rose, like he hits his game-winning shot and he's just like sitting like this and he's like, I can't get excited because to me this was just like preordained and I'm just fulfilling on my destiny. So this is the expectation, not like I'm surprised by it in a way. Yeah, it's a funny meme.
I love that, man. Listen, Jeff, man, I'm gonna wrap up here with some last minute questions and stuff, and some of these closing questions are gonna be advice questions, some reflections, and kind of like really tapping into what's next. So for the advice question, I want to talk about a little bit more about like for the next generation listening, right? And I know you're super intentional about that because you pull your hand back, bringing others along the way. For the creative designers, entrepreneurs, what's one truth about building a brand that no one talks about enough?
One truth about building a brand that no one talks about enough. trying to think of one that no one talks about a lot. Hmm. Can I pass? I'm gonna come back to it. Let me
For
think of the
sure.
right
Yeah.
answer.
Let's definitely pass.
Okay.
So now for the reflection piece, like when you think about young Jeff,
Mhm.
1997, going back, building this amazing, iconic brand.
Yeah.
Years after that, if young Jeff can see and think about what you're doing now, what do you think he would say if he could see where you are now?
Well, I mean, young Jeff is here. He's right over there. That's why I put him there.
I love that. I do see young Jeff right there.
Yeah. So young Jeff is here, and he would say, "You did the thing, man. You did the thing. You know, everyone said you couldn't do it. There was no odds or expectations like that you weren't some young phenom artist. You didn't come from some family that was all connected. There was like nothing, no statistical chart that someone would have said, this is the one, right? But even in light of all of that, you managed to do it, and I'm proud of you. That's what little Jeff would say.
That's fine, man. Shout out to you, little Jeff, and Jeff. A couple of years after
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
you know, when we think about chapters, right? What is this next chapter for you, and what does it look like?
Ah, good question. You mentioned about the sharing, right? The next chapter for me, which frankly is the last chapter,
I respect
right?
that.
Like
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
real, my brand is 25 plus years old. I'm 50 years old. 25 years now, I'm 75 years old. If I'm lucky, I get to 100, but I'm not working from 75 to 100. I'll probably be in a wheelchair, like, you know, I'll just be like, hey,
We're gonna
Sonny.
do part two then.
Right? So really, this next quarter is the last quarter of like contribution and work, right? I'm very cognizant of that, and it's okay. I'm fine with that. But I think that my next thing now is amplifying the sharing that you were talking about. How do I take all the experience that I've gained from the last 3-4 decades and channel that so that it reaches farther and reaches deeper into the conscious of young people? I could do it now with a tweet or like an IG post or like an event,
Yeah.
but it's still only hitting like hundreds or thousands of people. But how do I hit hundreds of millions of people, but not on a surface level, like deeply? So it's maximizing the storytelling process, you know. Said another way, like how do I Oprah my shit for this community?
Yeah.
How do I create that kind of a resonance, you know? So it's really maximizing on that is what I'm trying to figure out for the next quarter century. Because I don't want to be 62 putting out like clothes that cool kids want to wear when they're 18. It doesn't make really any sense.
Right.
I also want to develop a succession plan, which means like who's going to take the reins of Staple, as I want Staple to continue. But as I mentioned, I don't want to be the 80-year-old guy doing it. So what's the succession plan look like for that? You know?
Absolutely.
Okay, I think I have the answer for the first
Yeah,
question.
talk to me.
Okay. The thing that nobody talks about in building a brand that they need to is delegation. You know what that word means?
Yes, I
Okay.
do. You acting like I
Delegation.
just grew up yesterday. Yeah.
It's an
For
SAT
sure.
word.
Yeah. Use it in
Delegate.
sentence. Nah. Okay.
Spell it. Delegation is probably a thing that most people don't realize is really needed because, you know, young people starting a brand, especially creatives, think they're like supermen and superwomen, right? Like
Yeah.
I can do it all, right? But there's only 24 hours in a day, my man, and
Yeah.
like you need to sleep 6 to 8 of them, you know, and you need to eat, you need to see your family, you need to like do other things. And really there's only like about 8 to 10 hours a day in 7 days that you can actually activate this whole dream of yours. And it's not enough time. Like I tried.
Yeah.
I tried to sleep 2 to 3 hours a night. I tried to fast and not eat. And I tried everything to maximize the 24 hours, but you cannot do it. Like it's literally impossible. So
Yeah.
the only way to advance your brand to the next level and to keep it going in the way that you want it to is by adding team members to it to maximize it, you know?
Yeah.
And it took me like probably 8 years to like really realize that. And the worst part is I would start hiring people and then I'd be doing their job when I've hired them.
Oh, wow.
Like it's called micromanaging.
Yeah.
Right? So like I think That's the number one thing. Learn how to delegate from the beginning. Say like, this is what I'm gonna do. You're gonna do this. She's gonna do that, and together we're gonna form like Voltron and really kill it. You know.
Wow.
Again, another old man reference. Nobody knows what Voltron is. You could Google what Voltron is, but like, yeah, that's my advice or delegation.
That's a blessing, man. You know what, Jeff? I want to take this time just to give you your flowers, man.
Thank
you
you.
so much for being an incredible person. Thank you so much for the legacy that you have built and continue to build. Thank you for being so open. Thank you again for just saying yes. And I just wish you
Anytime.
ongoing success, bro. Thank you
you.
so much, my guy. We always turn it back to the guests, though. Who would you give your flowers to?
I mean, the answer's right behind you.
Yes.
So those are some
Wow.
people that like are the pioneers. You know, Clark Kent, Matt J, Justin Scott, Paulo C. These are people. Michael Reed. Reed is the name of my high school art teacher.
Wow.
These are people that paved the way before me. That also are not with us anymore, and so there's literally flowers there. So I'm giving my flowers to them.
That's a blessing, man. Well,
Yeah.
rest in peace to them, living legends.
Yeah.
And we are here with the legend himself. So thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you.
And there you have it. That was Off the Cuff with Jeff Staple.
Peace.